How do we, when we close schools in one area and don't do it in the other? Why can't we consolidate? I'm just asking.
Well, I think we are consolidating. That's part of the strategy. But this is the difference. Like, I'll tell you, there are 9 clusters. So one of the clusters has, I gotta think of that, like 9,000 kids in it. But they have 4 elementary schools, 1 6th grade campus, 1 middle school, and 1 high school. All right, so 7. But in one of the poorer areas that is not as socioeconomically, but I'm just saying like 4, that means,
right.
But 9,000 kids in like that
Cluster.
area. And then you go to another one and it's like you have 7 elementary schools. Let me count them. 1, 2, 3. 3 middle schools. 1, 2, 3. And 3 high schools. And I'm going to say 4 charter schools. And I think a private school of merit that I would say like people might actually pay tuition to go to. So because people over time made that argument, like we shouldn't close schools and so on and so forth, what's happened is the gross inefficiency and the lack of, so like that cluster has over 12,000 seats for children. Do you know what my utilization rate is? Like how many kids actually go to school in those 12,000 seats?
How many?
47%. So you have 6,000, I mean, okay, a little less than, but 6,000 empty seats in all those schools. So what starts happening for black children that I think is educational mispractice, so just know where my head is, you have a tiny school that's getting by the skin of its teeth. The teachers are working they're receiving the buses, working the cafeteria duty, monitoring the halls, teaching the classroom, doing the after-school programs, and doing some extra clubs on a very small staff. And oh, by the way, it's a 0.5 counselor. The principal can't get an AP. And I don't know about anybody else, but I just think, and then you're not giving the kids a full complement of an academic program. And so I'm not saying make them, mega schools, but that educational malpractice of
make it plain,
just not giving them what they're supposed to do is just wrong on every level. And so I feel like I've got enough evidence and research and experience to say a school with hardly 200 kids in it, in a building that holds 700, or are you ready for this one? And I try not to call out stuff because I just want to fix it and I don't want to make people feel bad. But we have schools that hold 1,500 to 1,700 kids. And I'm being generous by saying 1,500 because I'm just trying to keep my own anxiety down, but only have 400 students. I mean, that's a lot of empty space. It's just inefficient. So I ask myself, why wouldn't we, even if you merge them, you still have 40%, you have like 65% utilization. You're not even full yet. But at least you can have a larger master schedule that allows teachers time to do professional learning communities, where you give teachers time to do common planning, when you give teachers time to not have to work after school every day or do bus duty every single day, or just max them out where they're burned out. I mean, you need more people. And then on top of that, like, it's intense. So you might need a little break, yourself to catch a breath in APS. And I just think you can't do that on shoestring shoestring budgets and big buildings where you can't utilize the space, and you're burning all of your extra resources, time, people, and money on air, on wings of buildings we close, on space that no one ever uses. But I still have to pay the light bill. I still have to pay the electric bill. I still have to spend money on things that aren't going to help kids. By the time I finish wasting money on an underutilized building, I could have done 5 field trips in 1 month, 5 extra. I mean, why would we want to do that? But I hear people, right? I don't want another empty building in your neighborhoods. I don't want blight in our communities. I don't want people to look at those buildings and be like, what is going to happen here next? I know that. And I also know that we are inefficient enough and aren't being thoughtful enough about what we're supposed to be doing for children first so that they get the programming they need. So when I look at an empty building, or as we're doing consolidations and growing those bigger schools and addressing educational malpractice and making sure that kids get all the things they're supposed to get in a program, I look at that other building and I ask myself, knowing all the poverty in this neighborhood, knowing how expensive daycare is, knowing that I got tons of babies having babies, and for 0 to 3, I need them in quality programming, why isn't the community, and even as I say, my own school district, putting more money in early childhood education and opening that up as a site for people to put their children there? Mamas and daddies, at least like the lady who gave me an earful last night, was like, I had to, and I'm not kidding, she was like, I had to not go to my job tonight. I may have lost my job tonight, coming to the school to be able to talk to you. But that's like, whatever it was, 6 or 8 o'clock at night, whatever. I mean, I'm in meetings for so long, I lose track of time. But she was there at night with me, and and she's going to work for the 2nd, 3rd time in the day. And what we can't afford to have in our community, in the Black community, and in these communities where intergenerational poverty is just getting deeper and deeper, is that we reinforce all the bad things that keep our community trapped. So I know people are mad at me about school closures or consolidations or mergers. And I apologize for any of the stuff that makes people's lives worse, because I'm not trying to do that. But I do want kids ready for K, and I can't apologize for that. I do want children and families knowing how to play with and work with their kid when they're still in diapers, and what appropriate play and brain development looks and feels like. They don't know unless we teach them, and they're kids themselves. The kids they're kids. And so they don't know, because by the way, their mom and dad or grandmother, whoever was caring for them, didn't do it for them. And so I just feel like we need to do that. And if I have to be the person to do it, and people feel like, we've had enough of that and enough for her in this talk, I respect that. And I think, Atlanta needs to think about what's the appropriate next step for itself. But so long as I'm here, I will do everything within the authority of this office to create those opportunities for children. And I will just say it so no one, y'all go ahead and be mad at me tonight. I can't find a way to apologize for doing that, knowing what I see inside that system, and no one has done it, it looks like, for about 20 years. So we need to I just think, and I think we should do better communication. There should be a way where I have a plan. I just met with an affordable housing task force. My chair of the board, bless his heart, he worked all winter break, Courtney English, just slaving away trying to set up that task force. So when we came back after winter break, we would have plans to do community supports, affordable housing, early childhood, whatever we could do to be able to enrich communities. And so no one's been doing it, but someone needs to do it. And it's been clunky, and I know it's frustrating, and I know not everyone will agree. But let me be clear. People don't believe, but I am going through some serious, authentic community engagement. And I feel like I always am, but this is real in the Douglas cluster. And, you know, this is a community that goes from, we do need to close 7 of the schools to don't close any schools. And I try to negotiate between those 2 platforms so we get to something that's of high quality. And it is messy, it is long work. You never have enough sleep or reflection time to be the most patient person, both for them and me. But it's real. I think people are being really real about APS. And it is emotional, but I think everyone is doing it because they really know what's at stake about the future of the city if we don't have a workforce that can serve, which is what I heard today, a city that's going to grow, I think by 2050, they said, to be 1.3 million people. And what I raised was, that's great, but if the people I talk to, they want it to be great for black people too. They want people who live in neighborhoods that they don't want to be gentrified every time. They don't want development and displacement. They want revitalization, and they want to be part of the future. How do we make that happen? And I'm just the school superintendent. I just thought I was supposed to teach people to read. But I mean, I got a text on my phone right now. I tried to respond to that poor lady like 5 times in the last 5 days. I don't know how to help her, but she was like, you have to help me. I live on a street. I'm the only homeowner. 3 of the houses are vacant, and we have 2 renters. This wasn't what it was like just 10 years ago for us. You know, but people come to the schools and they ask us to do everything. I'm a leader. I will sit at anybody's table to do what we think is right. But we have to do it together. And I haven't been able to pull that. I have not been able to pull that off just yet.
Well, you're working on it. And that's, you know, it's going to be hot.
Oh, it's hot.
It's real hot.
And you've got me sweating up here. You know, you start with cheating and then you go into that. I thought we were friends.
We are friends.
I'm like deleting my hashtag.
But we are friends, and I think friends can talk about things very openly. Because
in front of everyone. Thank you. Next time let's go get a beer.
I don't drink beer, but we'll do it over a glass of wine with some popcorn.
All right.
But the reality is, no, seriously, because I know your heart. And that's the reason I wanted to just get it out there, because I think people don't understand the pressure that you're under and that your emphasis is really on the children. And
she told me earlier I was starting to look like Obama. Behind the stage, she was like, oh,
you're getting gray hair.
Like, you're getting gray hair. I was like, who are you? Okay.
But let's talk about what you really want to do with the children. And let's take little segments, because some parents will say, well, the buses, you've improved efficiency.
Yes, just so you know, good news, broken down buses are down 64%. On-time arrivals are like 94%. But for that 6% where the buses are still not on time, I am so sorry, because it is really, when we're bad, we're terrible in transportation. We've gotten better, but we did find that our school buses that we bought in some state pool, whatever that was back in the day, there is an engine flaw. Yes. I mean, I was like, really, I know everybody says APS is bad, but has anyone gone to, like, are we really that bad? We really don't know how to fix an engine, only to find out that there's a flaw. So I'm just saying, we've hired different mechanics who know how to fix that. That's why things are getting better, and it is going to get more better when E-Splost, the 1 penny sales tax, more better. Yeah, whatever. I don't even care at this point. I am so tired. I'm sorry. I mean, I did like 8 community meetings, and then they're like 4 hours long, and then people had to call and they get yelled at more after that. So I'm just telling you, so I apologize.
The buses
it gets
are better.
Now you made me lose my train of thought. So East West, the 1 penny sales tax, so thank you for renewing that for Atlanta public schools and the metro region. You've helped a ton of kids and schools get bricks and mortar and bus money and everything else. So when our money comes in this summer, we're going to be buying more buses, and we'll be able to hopefully launch a little bit more of a change in the way we kind of house and keep our buses so that things can run more smoothly. So
okay,
we're very excited about that.
Let's talk about police and metal detectors.
Yes, this is my first kind of metal detector district. I've always worked in Austin, which was twice the size of Atlanta. We had almost 100,000 kids. I had no metal detectors in any schools. I firmly believe that that if you have relationships with kids and it's a super healthy school environment, kids want to tell you. They want the adults to be engaged in their lives, and they want to let you know what they know, and so on and so forth. So we have a lot of metal detectors in APS, but this was on the other side. This is the first district I had worked in where we didn't have some version of our own police department. So we've established our own department. We're working with the National Institute of Justice and West Ed and one of our local universities to rethink the model of officers and in our schools, which means it's mentoring, counseling, teaching, and then policing. The idea is that you want them to love and respect our officers and and adults and each other, but it shouldn't be from
adversarial.
Thank you, something like that. But you want it to be where it's not based in fear, or that there's a punishment. You want to get before the punishment and help kids understand what they might do wrong so they make better choices. And that's embedded in our social emotional learning platform. So, and also we save money by bringing it in-house and hiring our own officers. And schools love knowing that they are 110% for them. So we used to be in a circumstance where we used officers from the city who were great, but if something happened in the city, protest, some big accident on the interstate, they'd have to pull sometimes from the school services, and that would leave us, short on games or being able to go with kids out of town or even cover our schools. So we're glad to see that it's in-house and it's able to really serve us in real time every day. So that's that piece. And then I think we had a lot of good movement, with people who technically aren't in the safety and security work. They are volunteers or mentors, and having them understand what we're trying to do. To me, it feels like we've supersized our capacity because they too have taken on a slightly different role that is more caring and engage with our students, because people actually know who the kids are. And there's a difference between calling a cop when you think a kid's doing something wrong, or actually knowing them and saying, now that ain't right. Mm-hmm. Are you gonna straighten up here, right? Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, whatever. And then kids go, they go on their way. So just spreading the responsibility, I think, has been a real gift in this transformation.
So also in the transformation, it's important to get grants, help from foundations. What's on the horizon? What can you foresee that you're working on?
Yeah, so we were super excited about our Peachtree Bowl gift, because I did make that same case about reading. We're going to start in areas that have the largest challenges. It's about $1 million. It's not. That goes far, but it doesn't. We need more. It's going to help us with reading and literacy. We also are expanding our social emotional learning to all schools, so that is definitely on the horizon with a partner. Like I said, I desperately want more early learning opportunities for our kids and families. And so we have absolutely requested more support in that area. So we have some funders coming forward with that.
So you will set up like an early childhood daycare center or what?
Early childhood centers, you know, like it's partnering with people like Sheltering Arms. So if one of the mergers, go back to that, not that I want to bring pain to me or the group, but we're merging, or my proposal is that we merge Beecher Hills with D.H. Stanton, and Sheltering Arms has agreed and has already broken ground at the best of the two sites for the entire footprint to have an early learning center with the school and being able to serve the kids and families for the merged population and some of the surrounding area. And then we have a partner that's interested in opening another center that would serve a different population in a different direction in the neighborhood, which would be even more early learning seats. And so that's what I mean about APS needing to get into the continuum, the space from birth to, you know, completing college, so that we have kids prepared, but then also when they leave us, we need to know that they finished and that they're okay, and that, you know, that we track that, like we care enough about them to see them into a job, to see if they're able to hold a stable job, to see if they're able to go to college and stay in college and finish on time. I mean, these are things that we need to do. And the best private schools and the best charter schools do this as a norm. I mean, you can be rest assured that folks know where their kids are going, especially if that's the culture they've set, to and through college. That's what we call it. So this is something I think APS we know we haven't done, but we certainly can build the capacity to do. And I think that the more people who start right, I mean, from birth with their child and take full advantage of those key ages, you know, when the brain is, you know, wrapping up around 11 months and, you know, then into 2 and 3 years old, where everything is really starting to get pretty hardwired, and you want to make sure that things are connecting and brains are exploding in the good way. You've got to present those opportunities and give access to parents and make it not only affordable, but if necessary, free. So I want to see that, and I think that as much as I don't want to see a school close unnecessarily, but this is a smart, efficient, high quality design and outcome that goes from serving 2 separate under-enrolled sites in really crummy buildings to one site that is going to get its refresh, plus an early learning center, plus another early learning center. So we go from serving, you know, 500 kids to potentially thousands, even though they're not in APS today. And I think we have a responsibility in that. And I'm just saying, this is the first community I've worked in where no one was reaching back in the early grades. I mean, in Minnesota, the legislature changed laws, like, I mean, made it possible for us to have a very high quality network. I mean, Art Rolnick, the lead of the Federal Reserve, who is the genius behind the rate of return for every dollar invested in early childhood, was the one who made the economic case for early learning. Every community I've been in, you know, wants to talk about that and wants it for our kids. And what I challenge Atlanta to think about is changing our model of every closure is hard, but just changing our model and our approach where we're thinking about what the community needs, how much of that space needs to be public schools, and what is the other space we need? Are these communities that need arts? Are these communities that need job training? Are these communities that need affordable housing? Are these communities that need early learning centers? I mean, if so, why don't we put that in the buildings and give more? But I think people, rightfully so, because I get the history in the past of Atlanta Public Schools, I just feel like people have spent so much time being hurt by the district being disrespected, feeling grossly disenfranchised. All those kinds of things are true, and because we did it. And we have partners that were like, I want you to know, just like 5 years ago, you threw me out of this building, now you want me to come back? And I'm like, yes, I do. I'm sorry that happened, but I think if you're willing to meet me halfway, we will be a better partner. Those are and I think that helps rebuild a community. So I can text that lady back and tell her, you know, I can't solve the housing problem, but we are inviting AHA and Beltline people and Invest Atlanta and all those people to the table. So we look at what APS hasn't been doing in this space around community development and support. And then what are you supposed to be doing and you supposed to be doing? And we all sit around the table and map out our stuff and agree on how we're going to do this together. The city, I just think our city needs to be more collaborative with public services and tax dollars. We just aren't.
No, we aren't. Well, that gets to the growth of charter schools. Go on, take a sip.
Thank you.
Because that's
take a bath.
Because that is, you know, we're seeing this growth, and everybody points to Drew. So let's talk about charter schools within the APS.
God, it's the longest interview ever. Jeez, I thought it was like 30 minutes. Okay, I gotta talk to my communication staff. Charter schools and the growth. Okay, here we go. I'm ready. Let's do this. Okay. I just should have read the details. Yeah.
No, we talked about this.
I know, I was busy though. And you're so sweet on the phone. But okay, all right.
I'm sweet all the time to you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so charter schools and the
about
growth.
charter schools in APS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, you know, there's a spectrum. There's the ones that we don't have any control over where the state approves them. Then there's the ones they call startup charters that the school board can approve if you get an application. But if we turn it down, they can appeal and apply to the state. And then they're separate, you know, they do their own thing. We don't even have to engage with them. I don't think that's good because then no one, to me, you have a little extra monitoring and a little extra accountability if the school board approves them. So we talk about things like what is the contract? How many kids are you supposed to recruit for each grade level? You can't exceed that. You're not supposed to. If you do, you know, you have to go back and redo things and so on and so forth. So, and then what we're doing is something that's not state approved, not a startup charter. They have a thing in the law called a conversion charter, so public schools can convert themselves into charter schools. And then what we've done, which is a whole new area and space, is called partnership schools, where we can team up with anybody, nonprofit is what our focus is, who wants or you know, that wants to work with us in this space and be a neighborhood school, have a neighborhood attendance area, serve the kids that any other elementary school would serve. So they're not like a charter school that can draw its own attendance boundary. Okay. It's not like a startup charter that can serve more than, you know, one city or one metro area. So they get to do what they want to do. When they are in my partnership agreement, we tell you what your attendance area is. We tell you who you're getting, and you don't get to pick them. They don't get to apply. No one gets to cherry pick or lemon drop. There's no public school to send them back to. It's just us. You're in it with us. So I'm not letting you send them down the street to somebody you have. So we've done a different model. But the charter school piece in Atlanta has been going on, I'm going to say, for at least 15 years. Because I think KIPP has been around the longest, and they're in their 14th year. And they've had a couple of graduating classes. So Atlanta is the first city I've worked in where you have some very strong anchor charter providers who've been around a long time and have done actually really good work. And what I can say about the school board, and I think the school board more than the state or anyone else. When the charter schools are not meeting expectations, we do close them. Now I get pushback from the charter community on that because they'll throw in my face we closed one, an elementary, and of course they wrote me a letter showing me how, well, you closed us after 5 years, but you've got this school over here that's been failing kids for 20 years. They have a point. When I was debating with the Douglas cluster, people, were like, we can't have, it's unfair. You should give us more time. We need 3 more years. We've only had X number of graduating classes, and we've only been in existence for 10 years. And I was like, under these data, if you were a charter school, you would have been closed 5 years ago by law.
By law.
By the state or us, somebody was going to come in and make you close. So the debate on charter schools with me is that I think what we all should try to agree on is that we want quality seats for all children, no matter where you live. So I don't want your zip code or your socioeconomic status or whatever to determine whether or not you get a quality education. What I'd like for us to figure out how to do is how we don't basically people fish in our pond as the norm. That's how people get kids, which is fine, but it just seems like it shouldn't be about, I understand choice. I respect a parent's decision. I'm never going to judge someone if they feel like they need to go to a faith-based private school or art school that's a startup charter that's amazing, or I'm not going to judge a parent because I don't live in that house and I don't know their kids the way they know their kids. But I will say this, I think that there is a better way. I think that we spend so much time working across from each other and fighting for the same tax dollar that I just think public schools, as evidence shows, are losing that battle. And so, the laws are now split, they're favorable on both sides. And to me, that means you better figure out a way to work together in a smarter way that doesn't drain a neighborhood, but also doesn't leave parents feeling like, I really want to go to my neighborhood school, but because you're giving us such APS, such a terrible outcome for my child, I have to choose something else. And I'm not rich, so my next option is going to be something that's public and free. And if that's a charter school, then I'm going to do that. And I don't see how you can be mad at people for that. I've got one cluster with a wait list of 654 kids just for one charter school. Mm. If that charter provider opened one school, it would be filled to the gills tomorrow. APS is open all day, every year, and we got 700 seats with 300 kids. I think we need to have a conversation about how we provide quality, and at the same time, how are we working together so that families really do have choice and options that they feel good about. And I know me, I'm a product of public schools, and I want my kids to go to public schools. And then I try to imagine sometimes when I walk into schools when I know we have grossly underserved children. And I say to myself, if I lived in this neighborhood, would I send my kid to this school? And in my head, I'm saying no. What you can expect is me talking to them about turnaround, intensive supports. You've got to set targets. We're going to have to change something. You can't stay the same. And sometimes that involves mergers, closures, complete rethinkings. But I don't think the answer is just opening up charter schools everywhere and closing out American public schools as we know them. And I say that for just this reason, or 2 reasons. One is in our lifetimes, everybody in this room, you will never see charter schools grow with enough capacity to fill the need that people may think we have. They don't grow that fast. And the best models actually grow quite slow and are thoughtful, and they have growth models, and they don't grow unless it's ready to grow. So it is a slow process. The second thing is, I think we have an obligation as the premier country considered the free world, the American democracy, to educate its public. That is what we're built on. And I think it's the cornerstone of our democracy. The whole point is that anyone, no matter your race, your sexual orientation, your gender, your faith-based, whatever, you should be able to go to a public school, enter those schoolhouse gates, and get a quality education and call it a day. And then be an informed resident or citizen in the democracy, period. That should not be our Achilles heel. That is how, in part, America became great. And so I just think I think we're doing ourselves a great disservice when people who need that for free, and I don't ever say appropriate, but it's like a free, I think, quality education. But you should be able to get that and pay your taxes, and that be covered for you in an American democracy. And when we're not doing that, we're weakening what we are as a nation.